All right. At this time, I will call the March 11th, 2024 meeting to order. Welcome to everybody here in attendance. If you will, please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Mr. Green, this time I believe we have a student presentation from Slough Elementary.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. In our continued series of what we love the most probably about our board meetings is to highlight the great work going on in our schools and the great things our students are doing. So I'm certainly glad to have everybody with us. It's my pleasure to turn the program over to Principal Eric Ostronic, who will tell us what's going on here with Slough Elementary.
Thank you for having us this evening. I'm not going to steal any thunder. I'm going to pass it off to our staff and our wonderful students.
Hello, thank you for having us this evening. I'm Ginger Rackley. I teach 4th grade. As hopefully everyone knows, Saluda is an A+ school, and we know the importance of integrating the arts into our curriculum and letting students show their creativity in a different way, show their understanding of concepts in a different way. So today, in order to do that, Mrs. Stronach and I and Ms. McNeil are our music teacher, and Mr. Marshall our PE teacher, and a lot of our students, not a lot of our Saluda family has come to STERMS to show you a couple of demonstrations to show how we integrate the arts. The first one is a science slash music slash theater integration, and the second one is includes music, math, and PE. And I'll turn it over to Tom.
Thank you. Okay, our first one was I worked with the 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Urich, and she teaches science, and they were studying rotation and revolution. And 4th graders, what's the difference between rotate and revolve? Zoe.
One of them is you spin in place, and the other one is you spin around something.
Okay, Karina.
Rotation is where you spin on an axis, and revolution is where you spin around an object, where an object spins around another object.
Okay, I've got a couple of 4th graders that we found a song that went along with that, and with your permission, we'd like to go ahead and show that one to you now. So, absolutely, everybody who's doing rotate and revolve, come on up. You got it. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Here's
Science talk, science talk, science talk. Watch me revolve, now watch me rotate. 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 Rotate, rotate, on my axis. Rotate, rotate, on my axis. Rotate, rotate, on my axis. Rotate, rotate. Revolve around the sun, revolve around the sun, revolve around the sun, revolve around the sun. And with my tilt, that makes the seasons. And with my tilt, that makes the seasons. Day, 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 day. Now it's night, 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 night. Day, 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 day. Now it's night, 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 night. Watch me revolve. Now watch me rotate. 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 Rotate, rotate on my axis. Rotate, rotate on my axis. Rotate, rotate on my axis. Rotate, rotate. Revolve around the sun. Revolve around the sun. Revolve around the sun. Revolve around the sun. And with my tilt, that makes the seasons. And with my tilt, that makes the seasons. Day, day, day,
Awesome. Did that make you dizzy? Okay, one of the other things that we do, and actually I'm going to ask you to help out a little bit of this. What is rhythm? What is rhythm? Corina.
Short and long sounds.
There you go. Short and long sounds and music, you put them to beats. And to give you an example of what they do, there are like 3 basic rhythms that we sort of start with. And one is the shortest sound, which is a quarter note. So just like that. That's it. Like and stop. Okay. Now, if you make put 2 of those together, you get what we call a half note. So we're going to clap some half notes now. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and stop. And then if you put 4 of those together, you get whole notes. So we're going to do those. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you got the idea. So they learn the notes, the musical notes, which is also part of math in music. But then the trick is that you got to put them together into music. And at the same time, Mr. Marshall has just finished a unit on basketballs. So we thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if we put together all those little rhythms that we've learned and put them to some basketballs? And now it's your turn.
Well, thank you. The 4th graders that are going to be doing this, if you want to make your way up to the front. We did basketball in January, so we practiced a lot of dribbling, and she was telling me that they were learning beats, so we put it to a song. So they have been practicing in the gym on a wooden floor with a high ceiling. So we are going to try to really be careful as we do this, not to break the projector or to knock any computers off. We'll be doing quarter notes, which are dribbling from our knees or lower, half notes, which are from our waist or lower, and whole notes, which they're going to, which I'm gonna actually tell all of you this, instead of going around your waist, I want you just to grab it and spin so we don't lose any balls hitting any computers. So. And we are going to do this to an Elvis Presley song. So if you would like to find a spot, we're gonna stay away from this when we do our little toss-up. You guys, if you want to stand in the line, that might be good too. Or Jace, come over here a little bit by Karina, and Keenan, have you go stand closer to Clara. So we worked on dribbling with our fingers, keeping our eyes up, which in this case, I told them to keep an eye on the ball so we don't lose it into anything. So, all right.
Well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I met you like a man on a fuzzy tree. My friends say I'm acting wild as a bug. I'm in love. Woo! I'm all shook up.
Half notes.
Yeah, yeah.
Go.
Quarter note. My hands are shaking and my knees are weak. I can't seem to stand on my own feet. Who do you think of when you have such luck? I'm in love. I'm all shook up.
Half notes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, please don't ask me what's on my mind. I'm a little mixed up, but I feel fine. When I'm near a girl that I love best, my heart beats so it scares me to death when she touches
Quarter note.
the handle of the chill I got. Her lips are like a volcano on its top. I'm proud to say that she's my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all
Half
shook
note.
up. Yeah, yeah. My tongue gets tied when I try to speak. My inside shake like a leaf on a tree. There's only one cure for this body of mine. Oh, that's to have that girl and a love so fine. She touched my neck on the chill I got. Her lips are like a volcano that's hot. I'm proud to say that she's my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all shook up.
Half note.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm all shook up.
Thank you for entrusting us. with
Thank you for doing it.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to put Principal Stronach on the spot just for a little bit. First of all, I know you knew about A+, but this was the first year you were an A+ principal, correct?
Correct.
Can you just tell me what you like about that model and how you see it benefiting kids?
So I think what I like about it is kids have fun with it. They're energetic, they're engaged, they're excited about it. They come to school each and every day and they're ready just to jump in and have fun. I think something that I've noted that's very different from other places I've been is the confidence. While our kiddos, we walked through the door and they were like, they were still okay. Like nobody just really fell apart. Everybody did a fantastic job. But I know, there was a little bit of anxiety in there, but just the confidence and the things that they're able to communicate back to us. I learned this, and this is why it's important in life. I think that's really important. So I think, our staff have a fun time teaching. Our students have a super fun time learning, and smiles on their faces all the time. So I like the culture and community in the school as well, just the bright colors. It's a fun place to be.
Thank you for that. I think it's important to note, how willing and eager those teachers are to do planning in their off time, to work together. It's awfully nice when you can paint your own picture, but to have to do that with colleagues in the pursuit of doing the right thing for kids, I just can't thank y'all enough. It makes a huge difference and makes Salute a very special place. So,
Yes, thank you very much. And hey, guys, I know that wasn't easy for you kiddos to do. So thank you for coming here and make yourselves more vulnerable to us this evening and entertaining us for a little while. So thank you very much.
Parents, thank y'all for coming too, and we sure appreciate having you. Like I said, y'all welcome to step up.
Easy goes, easy.
I think there's a couple together.
Too cute.
Or even something, all the balls are bouncing at just the same time. Last forever.
I said, well, there's not a floor in here that's even. I was impressed by that. Very irritating.
I did.
All right, everybody. Next on the agenda is the approval of the February 12th, 2024 minutes from our last meeting. Has everybody got a chance to review? Do we have a motion and second for approval?
I make a motion that we accept the February 12th minutes as presented.
I second it.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving along then under instructional, we have the McKinney-Vento, Ms. Lindley Foster.
Mr. Chair, she's going to get up and present to you, but again, I want to just commend Lindley and all of our social work and counseling staff, the stuff that they have to see and deal with on a day-to-day basis. Quite frankly, is a great deal for them to shoulder and to bear. So thank you for what you do and the people you interact with and try to move forward. And we all need help every now and then, so you guys are doing a great job with that. I just know it takes a tremendous toll on you guys, and I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you, and thank you for.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Fire away.
Thank you for entrusting it to me, because it is a big job. And I'm sorry I had a dance prepare, but they did what I was gonna do. So, sorry. Mr. Green asked me to talk a little bit about McKinney-Vento, and that is the federal schools definition for homeless. And so it's a little bit different than maybe our traditional understanding of homeless. So I'm just going to go over that definition a little bit. It means they lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. And that can mean many different things. So it could mean that they live at a campground, in a camper, in a tent, in a car, that the parents are exchanging themselves for housing. And one definition that's hard for a lot of people to wrap their minds around is couch hopping, because we have a lot of students who are considered homeless that are couch hopping. And so this could be that the parents are staying with friends and they're hopping from, friend to friend, or they got evicted, so they had to move in with someone for a temporary time. So that does consider them homeless. They are taken care of, they have a roof over their head, but it does mean they have circumstances where they're not able to secure their own housing. I think if I asked each of you to stand up and swap seats, you'd be really, really annoyed at me. And just kind of imagine that on a much bigger scale, where you have all of your belongings in a trash bag or a suitcase that somebody's donated. You don't know when you get things, if they have to stay at the house you're at or if they get to travel with you. You don't know when you're going to be as a child. You don't know when you're going to have to move from house to house. You don't know, none of it is secure. As an adult, it's not secure because you don't know, you're not in charge of running that. You're not in charge of saying if you're allowed to be there or not. And as a child, it's even more insecure because a lot of the ones that are in this situation are used to hopping around. And they know that it's going to come eventually, but they don't know when. So they don't put down any roots at that home and, try not to get attached to things and because they lose a lot of their personal belongings as well as their emotional stuff they carry. So that's why couch hopping is considered homeless, because it's not secure. They could lose that at any moment. So in the past, before last year, we averaged about 11 homeless students a year. Last year, we had 22 homeless students, and this year we have 38 homeless students. And those don't include the siblings. It'd be closer to 45 if we included younger siblings who are not yet enrolled in school. And that doesn't count the parents, that's just school-age children. We have 4 unaccompanied youth, and the unaccompanied youth means that they've either run away from home or they've been abandoned by their guardian or parent, and so they are couch hopping on their own. So we have 4 teenagers who are doing that. They're couch hopping at friends and family friends and don't have guardians or housing. We have 16 that are hopping. We have 20. We have 2 that are living in a shelter. And 20 that are living in unstable housing. This is the tent, camper, cars, garages, and that includes some that are prostituting themselves in exchange for housing, which is also considered homeless. And unfortunately, we do have that in Polk County. So
This is kids doing that?
No, not
Adults.
to my knowledge. That
Right.
I would
The
report
adults,
that,
right?
Yeah. The adults, yes, sorry. So what we are mandated federally to do when we have homeless students is to offer them Title I services, and that's whether they qualify academically or not. Most of those students need a little bit extra support, so some one-on-one and some small group work. After school services, if they request it. A lot of our homeless families don't request it because transportation is such an issue, and after school, unfortunately, doesn't bus. But that is an option for our ones who seek that out. And then transportation assistance, we always try to help. The bus garage does such an awesome job. Mr. Crump and all of his crew do such a great job helping out whenever we have homeless kids, whether they live in a shelter or in a tent or wherever they live. He always tries to get the bus. And as I know you guys have heard that it's hard to get bus drivers right now, and it's hard to secure those routes. And so they go above and beyond to make sure our homeless kids are having a safe way to school. So those are the things that we're mandated to do. Of course, we also hook them up with local resources. I have a little packet that I give them that has some information about food and clothing and any kind of local resources that they might benefit from. And then something that we do, and we do this through donations. We were very lucky to receive donations from Triumph Presbyterian and also from the local Polk County PAC, which is the Parent Advisory Council, and that's not connected to the school. That's like the Community Advisory Council. And then also through donations from myself and other staff members, especially here at Stearns in this office. We have some very giving people with big hearts, and anytime I put in an email that's like, hey, we have a family that needs help, they respond really quickly. So through those donations, we hook them up with laundry, food, and clothing. Outside of housing, those are the biggest needs that I see is laundry, food, and clothing. A lot of that comes from when you are hopping and what you have isn't secure, you might have to leave it where it is. And so just not having those belongings. And then also laundry is a really big need. Excuse me. I had a parent text me this weekend and said, hey, can I get help with laundry? I did one load, and it was one of those big industrial loads at the laundromat, but it was $17 for one load. So it probably, 3 average size loads of clothes, but still, for $17 for every time you're washing your clothes for one load, that adds up really quickly. And then mental and physical health services for the whole family. That's not something that we can help with as much. Of course, we connect them to resources, but that's just something in general that not just our county, but I think nationally, we do a really good job of serving the children when we can, because most of them qualify for Medicare, Medicaid, and but the whole family doesn't necessarily qualify for services. So having mental and physical health services for the whole family could really benefit our homeless students and our homeless community. We do not receive any federal funding for our homeless students, even though we have around 40, 45. You have to have at least 50 in order to receive funding. So all of the funding that we get, again, comes from donations. And from the great people in Polk County, the Hope Chest, they help out a lot when they can. So we're very lucky to have some very giving resources, but it is also draining because it is the same resources giving every time, and our numbers have tripled, quadrupled recently. I think part of that is due to identification. We're working to educate our staff and our teachers and our data managers about what homelessness is and what it looks like and how to pinpoint it, because most of our families aren't coming in and saying, hey, I'm homeless, can you help? You know, we kind of have to weed that out ourselves so that, and realize that they need a little bit extra support, and how can we help them with that? And then part of that, I think, does come from, I'm sure you're all aware of the rising housing prices and the rent prices, and and there are eight of our current homeless ones are due to being evicted recently. So not being able to afford rent and then being evicted and having to move in with someone else. We do have 5 that, so when you're identified as McKinney-Vento, that identification sticks with you for a whole school year. So if you're identified in August, but then you get housing in December, you're still considered McKinney-Vento through the rest of the year. So we do have 5 of those 40, 45 that have gotten housing during this year. And that's great. We always celebrate that and try to help again with resources when they do get a house, helping them to stock that with whatever they need, food, furniture, that kind of thing. But I just appreciate you guys letting me come and talk about this. I could talk about homeless all day. So if you have any questions, please let me know. It doesn't look the way that we think it does. You know, we don't see these students and their families sleeping in downtown Columbus or Tryon. And so it's easy to think that we don't have that here, but we definitely do. Even ones that aren't doubling up or couch hopping, you know, we have kids sleeping in tents and sleeping in their cars. And so we absolutely do have that. It is a need. You know, it's not as big here as it is in bigger cities, but you could say that about everything that we have. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you want to talk afterwards or anything, I'm glad to talk about it. But I appreciate your time and thank you for letting me speak.
Do we have like a washer and dryer at the high school for the sports?
I'm glad you said that. Mr. Green knows that this is my dream, is to have a resource center. I've been pushing for that since I got this job. So I would love to have a resource, because we do have washer and dryers.
Or we do have.
We have ones that are not used for our homeless families. So obviously, I mean, sports have lots of needs, and there's not availability to use them otherwise, because they are always being used already.
And what I will tell you is that whether you're talking about the middle school, the high school, or any school that has a washer and dryer, if you've got a kid in need, those counselors will take this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But what we're talking about is an after hours weekend kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, certainly.
Right. And what we butt up against is, okay, well, who's going to man it?
Yeah.
Who's going to keep track of it? Who's going to make sure that we don't have
where we're
too
going to
many
put
people?
it? Yeah.
Right. Where are you going to put it? How many machines are you going to have? You know, when do you get to the point where you have to distill out, okay, who really needs it and who doesn't? And it's just all those questions. You know, our mission creep in public schools is well over our bounds, and then you start adding things like this. So it's not that we don't want to be there, but certainly we want to think of creative ways that we could potentially do it. And Lindley's just a visionary. So, you know, she's well, Forbes, if they would give me that house, I could make this and that, and we could do. So I think that what she's saying, we all need to hear loud and clear in Polk County, and as we do have these families and these kids around, and they do need our help and support. And if DSS and the school system are always going to be the only ones doing it, we're not going to get the need met. that's why programs like With All, with Mr. Parsons and the other churches and agencies like Steps to Hope and people like that is why it's so important for the community to come together and do it. But great question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to verbal.
Do you see more teens versus more smaller children in certain areas? Is there certain areas that's more effective than, say, I'm gonna throw out Sunnyview versus Tryon? Is there more?
So because we have the campground in the Mill Springs, Sunnyview area, there are, I don't even know that, because if they live at the campground, they're qualified as McKinney-Vento. But even still, I don't think there's necessarily more in the Sunnyview area. I think it's pretty even spread out. And then as far as ages, I think high schoolers and middle schoolers, they're going to hide that a little bit more. So it takes more of building that relationship and getting to know them and figuring out kind of what's going on with them. Whereas, you've got elementary students who will come in and tell you everything that's going on in their lives. So it takes a little bit more digging to figure out for the older students.
Well, the frightening thing about what I just heard you say is over the last basically 3 years, it's been exponential growth.
Yes.
Half 1% to 1% to 2% of our kids that are
Yes.
meeting this criteria. So that's frightening to me.
Yes.
Very.
Thank you guys so much.
Mr. Chair, I just want to again say thank you to Lindley. I mean, the stories, Brandon said it Dr. Spicer said it one day, the walls up there are kind of thin, but Linda's on that phone talking to these people and hearing their life stories, and there is some stuff that you just can't not remember. I mean, it affects you. So thank you for that. And I know you're working as hard as you can for these folks. Continue to let us know how we can help.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on under instructional, we now have the FFA overnight field trip request. Mr. Green.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Sorry to do such a whiplash on you. We had the great famous salute to kids, and then we're talking about homeless. My apologies. So trip proposal, we're back to good stuff again. This is FFA land judging. They always do a great job, and certainly have earned the right to go. So unless there's an objection, the administration highly recommends we approve.
Well, we'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval of the field trip request.
So I second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Moving then down under administrative, we have a budget amendment. Ms. Debbie Lovelace.
This is the contract. Every year we have to re-sign the contract for the auditors. Even though we've got 4 years on our contract, they still send us every year for our contract to be approved from year to year, even though we're still, in the contract period. So this is just the contract. This is not the budget.
Right. Yeah, well, we're going to go ahead and do the approval of the contract then.
Okay.
So this would be an action item. We'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
Something.
I second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the audit contract? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.
There
We'll go to budget amendment.
Okay, this is the budget amendment number, I think it's 4. We had additional revenue and, a little bit, or revision.
She's got some notes now, just a little bit.
Okay.
There you go.
For revisions 36 through 43, we got some safety money, that was for the social work and the,
Some equipment.
safety equipment,
Yep.
yes. And then we had a little bit of a sure up on NCVPS. Usually that's a slight reduction. It's really from a prior year, but the majority of this was for the safety grants that we got. This is state funds.
NCVPS is the virtual public school in North Carolina, and we often have to allow at least a few of our students to access their courses so they can complete different things, different times.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a charge for that. And so you are allotted a certain number of spots every year, depending on your ADM. Sometimes we go over that, sometimes we're under it. And so they make financial adjustments one way or the other.
Yeah, they're like a year behind.
Sorry, we hadn't talked about it in a long time. I just thought I'd put that in there.
Okay, scroll up. On federal, we had additional revenue for, one, PRC 114, which is our special needs at risk. We're still getting some budget amendments. I'm still going to be getting some. DPI is kind of rather slow this year on some of these, especially the federal programs this year. Okay, scroll.
Ms. Lovis, you mean we don't get all the money we need for the year to start? Oh, okay, I'm just checking.
Okay, this one is a reduction, and this is on our capital. This was where, some of those dogwood funds, originally I had it in Fund 4, but I moved it to Fund 8 to go along with the, schools, the pre-K, that's what that was for. So basically, we got some funds for buses, and then I moved the other 300,000 to Fund 8. You'll see that in a minute. I just changed the funds that was in because really it needs to go in. It was really a grant, so I moved it in Fund 8. And then you've got an additional 681,467, which was the dogwood. I moved that 300,000 into Fund 8, and then we got some Turner tenant money, some small schools, STEMs West, and some Polk County Community Foundation. So that's one reason this is so big, because I took it out of the other one. I just moved it.
Just a reclass.
Really, that money is capital, but it's not from the county, or it's not from any of our state funds. So you can count it in either one, and I put it down with the other pre-K, which is PRC 309 and 413, which is Head Start, NC pre-K. So they're all in Fund 8 now, along with that grant.
Makes it cleaner.
Yeah, makes it a little bit easier.
All right. Questions from Ms. Lovelace?
The Fund 3, the dollar, can you explain that? Is that just?
Right there.
Yeah, it's the way it rounds from, whenever I do an update, it will round. So that's just a rounding error. I mean, not error, but
It's within
an
a
actual
dollar.
rounding. Yeah. It's like when DPI pulls that down, it may be $1 off. And this year, for some reason, they had, usually whenever we do a planning allotment, the actual that we get is usually higher. This year, actually, it was lower, which is actually a reduction overall. So when you actually pull it down, it may not be rounded up to the same thing that DPI has. And I have to balance to what DPI has, so I had to add $1.
I'll be glad to take that out and give it to you.
Yeah.
Other questions from Ms. Lovelace? Once again, this is an actionable item. Looking for a motion and a second for approval.
I'll move, we approve budget amendments as presented.
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second for the budget amendment. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion also carries 7-0. Moving down next, this is a mouthful. The NBP SCF request. Dr. Schweitzer.
The needs-based public school capital fund request. So this is the additional monies that we're using to pair up with Head Start funds to fund the Tryon Pre-K edition. Up to this point, we've done very small draws on these. You guys have seen these as pay applications have come along. You haven't seen one in the last 2 pay application cycles for 6 and 7. So this is a true up for the last 2. The reason I want to point out that the amount is a lot more this time that we are truing up out of our lottery fund. So down here, the number to pay attention to is this one that we are asking for, is that we have exhausted the majority of our Head Start funds, and we're now moving into drawing down on this funding source to close out the project. The second thing I point your attention to is it says total project cost to date. That's $702,000. All those pieces. You have to keep in mind, as far as the state is concerned, this was a $1.6 million grant allotment for this funding source. That is not the total cost of the Tryon Pre-K edition. But to keep the numbers clean, you have to just consider the $1.6 million they allowed us. If it doesn't make sense, I understand. Just know that Debbie and I may understand where we're at in negotiating the state. But that is the purpose for these drawdowns of these numbers. This is just triggering up the last 2 pay applications.
Yeah, actually, that Head Start is out of like 3 different funds. You've got the Dogwood, and then you've got this, and then you've got Head Start. So your Head Start, you draw that down so you finish it up at the end here, and then you start working towards this one, because this one has to have a match. So of course, we're gonna do this one last, so we don't have a match until the end, because that match has to come from the local county. There is a priority.
There's a method to that. Makes sense.
This also requires county commission approval too. So with board's approval tonight, we'll submit that to the county board of commissioners, hopefully for their approval next week.
Questions for Dr. Schweitzer on this? Once again, this is another action item. We'll be looking for a motion and a second for approval.
I'll make a motion that we accept the NBESCF request.
Good job. I'll second.
Motion and a second. I'm not going to repeat that again. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. And Dr. Schweitzer, back to you again for the PCHS paving phase 2.
Awesome. So this item is a informational item only for the board. I wanted to keep you apprised of our progress as we've ventured into phase 2 of paving Polk County High School. Phase 1 happened this past summer. The front end of the campus got a much needed facelift and the roads addressed. If you recall, phase 1 was a very straightforward portion of the process. Much of that project was a simple cutout and put back exactly as is. The only new pavement that occurred on the front end was the student parking lots. What's going to separate phase 1 from phase 2 that I'm about to show you is the front end of the campus was always engineered for parking and for drainage. So even though the student lots were gravel, they were built out in a way that accounted for runoff and drainage and all those pieces. That kept costs significantly down on the front end of the project. Can you tell I'm bracing you for the big end? All right, so as we roll into phase 2, we engaged with WGLA Engineering Services to have the back end of Polk County High School engineered. This would be the portion of the campus running up and around the ag area, all the way through the back bus lots and down and around the ball fields. The first part of this engineering documentation is just simply a recap of the current campus. So again, this portion we're talking about picks up right here where our phase 1 paving ended, circles around the back end of the parking lots, all through our bus lots, and then picks up currently where our gravel road access is, that comes down the hill and feeds by the farm out towards our baseball and softball fields, circles around the softball fields / football practice field area, and then comes up the hill, exiting out here into this paved area, which feeds into our football facilities and complexes. All of this would be potentially a portion of this phase 2 project. The next section we're looking at is the actual proposal itself. You are going to see in this, there is 2 alternates as a part of the overall bid. I'm going to point out what those 2 alternates are. The first one is what I think to be a pretty critical piece to this project, and that is addressing a longstanding and significant drainage issue that's occurring right here. Right now, anytime it rains pretty heavy, just outside Mr. Barber's trailer, Lake Barber appears. And we have to figure out how to get rid of Lake Barber every single time. So right now we have got to address this draining situation to get water charted off property properly and down the gravel access road or over to the farm area. So that alternate number 1 is this drainage remediation project on this side. The reason I think this is so critical is because in the future, if we are to pursue perhaps a CTE building expansion, we are going to need this space where you can see I'm circling my cursors here, where the current mobile units and also a barn storage area where they are currently sitting is a proposed location for a CTE expansion that we could have sometime in the future. So we need obviously water to be flowing correctly for that to ever happen. All this pavement is going to be set to a 3-inch depth all the way through the rear of the campus to account for our buses and heavy bus trafficking. Bus circle would be reduced just slightly, and unfortunately the trees that are in the circle are going to have to come out. We don't like removing foliage, especially natural foliage, anywhere we can. When I say natural, native foliage, anywhere we can. But that's one that we're going to have to remediate due to some of the paving concerns. We will end up putting back some shrubbery to kind of circle this out, but reducing that bus circle just slightly. A Coming on down is the really interesting part to the project. It's a little bit confusing because you see some of the flow lines coming across, but essentially this area will be paved as you enter the athletics complex on the lower end. All parking would occur parallel down the farm side of this road. Down the left side of the road, you'd have guardrail and enough lane spacing for at least 24 feet or 12 feet of lanes on either side. We felt like that was rather important to be able to have two-way access down to and from this facility. If you've been to a softball or baseball game recently, or a popular one, especially when we're facing off against, say, Landrum or Hendersonville, getting up and down this road at the right time essentially becomes one-way traffic, and it's quite frankly a little bit dangerous. So this certainly fixes a lot of those issues and controls drainage down through here. Once you get down to the bottom, you see parking moves to a more traditional perpendicular parking with the exception of this area. This area is laid out in parallel parking due to the grade, the bank structure that runs down the hill on this side. The cost was simply too significant to build up a retaining wall or do anything with remediating that space. It's already going to be an expensive project. This would have added easily $100,000 to $200,000 to the project to build that road grade up. So we elected to just simply leave that as parallel parking on this side. And then also what we have learned that anytime we pave a space, suddenly we get a whole lot more drainage and stormwater, right? And that's what we learned on the front side of the campus. So down here, this is accounting for that and charting that water off property on this side. Paving would continue around the ball fields up this direction. And then just the front end of the existing paved area would be chip sealed or basically cut out and then repaved back with fresh pavement. We are proposing as alternate number 2, not paving the interior and all of these spaces inside the athletics facility. There's a couple reasons for that. Some of this asphalt that currently exists is relatively fresh. This area that runs along the retaining wall on the home side, and also this little stretch of asphalt that is on the visitor side, is really only about 8 years old. It's relative 8 to 10 years old. It's relatively new asphalt. The asphalt that runs up and around these areas is actually still serviceable. What we're proposing is, as a part of alternate number 2, is a seal coat for the interior of the football stadium. Several years ago, we seal coated it ourselves. That was just simply, I think for the time, that's the best we could do. We simply got buckets of seal coat and put it out ourselves and did the work. What I'm proposing is professional seal coating, coming in and truly remediating your cracks, crevices, all those different pieces, and doing a professional seal coat on the inside. So when you see alternate number 2, that's what we're proposing on the inside of the facility. Once again, this was a value cost decision that was made. Repaving this particular area, because the amount of handwork that would have had to have been done would have driven that cost significantly up. There's not a whole lot of machinery that can come and cover a lot of these really tight spaces. So down below some of the engineering drawings talking about drainage and some of the other areas, you get to the cut sheet, which is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, on what the engineers' projected costs are on the project. And I think the one that everyone wants to see is these 2 numbers. So this is without the alternates. We're coming out to $563,000 as an engineer's projection. And then down here, if you add both the drainage area, which is this alt 1, and alternate 2 is the seal coating, you come out to a sum total of $588,000 as projected. So once again, this is nothing more at this time than just information for the board. We're going to need to get together with our facility subcommittee, revisit this decision, see if we need to make changes or adjustments to the overall plan, and then eventually make a choice, hopefully in upcoming board meetings, as to whether the board is ready to approve this project for launch for bid. Part of our engineering contract with WGLA is that they will handle the bid for us. So we've already paid for that portion of that service. So this is just a matter of our approval for moving the project forward when we are ready.
Questions for Dr. Schweitzer?
We're gonna try to do it this summer? That be a goal?
We would need board approval fairly quickly, most likely at the April.
What I talked about Schweitzer about is getting y'all together here in the next week or 2. Let's get the facilities committee to kind of pass judgment on it, make sure that we're informing the county this is our intention, and then come back in April, get you guys to go ahead and approve for bids to go out. You put your bids out in April. 30 days, usually plenty of time for that. Get it back in and go down. with the understanding that everybody we communicate with, that we, have bid on it. Hey, we need this job done in the summertime. There's a tight window. If somebody can pull around that quick for a project that size, I don't know. It's not going to be quite as intensive on the asphalt side as it is going to be on the digging and the ground moving side for the drainage and the other things. So it really depends on if a company can do it, stage and do all those things the way they need to. But yeah, our goal is to try to get it done for sure. It took a little longer for the engineers because, there was a superintendent who might have hemmed and hawed and asked for this to be considered. Well, what about that? And so part of that's
It usually is.
Well,
I'll take it away.
I think it's fair to say that portion of the campus we're looking at was never really engineered to be paved.
Never designed.
Never designed for that. So again, unlike the front half where I talked about it had been, this is starting fresh. So there's a lot of road construction pieces that goes into this.
It's the difference in the cost, and I'm glad it came in at that because now there's a certain person who knows me different. So that's good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do think that, again, as we talked about in our budget meeting, we really don't have the capital resources at this time to bite that off and to keep up with our repairs and renovations. So this is something that will depend on, whether we like it or not, will depend on the county and their funding and whether or not they're willing to help us out a little bit in this project.
Fair enough. All right, thank you, Dr. Schweitzer. We'll move now under old business. We have back to Dr. Schweitzer again, the facilities update.
Right. As I joke all the time, it's always fun when the tech guy has tech issues, right?
Mr. Chair, while he's having fun, my only new business for today is actually just an announcement. I wanted y'all to know that on March 20th at 3:30 p.m. at Polk Central Elementary, Polk Central will be honoring Ms. Allen, her contributions to that school and specifically the media center. So we'd love for the board to come if they can. Again, that's March 20th at 3:30 p.m. at Polk Central. Thank you. She deserved it for sure. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. So for your construction update, we are closing in on the finish line out at Tryon Elementary School for the pre-K addition. Couple pieces just on broad overview current projects that they're wrapping up. Electrical and lighting is in place. It doesn't reflect in those images, but I was out there today. All of the lighting panels have been installed. They have pulled the core electrical lines. So general power hookup should happen within the week for the facility. Data, fire cabling, all those pertinent pieces. Encore was out there wrapping up their door access controls and data wiring, all those different cabling needs that we have. And then fire is going to be one of the ones that obviously is pretty critical for getting CO at the end. So fire controls are out there as well. Drywall and paint is ongoing as we speak. So the major drywalling has been installed. Right now we're doing some patch and punch list type items, fixing some different areas. First rounds of paint are out there. Ms. Harding, we're in here. I bust your chops a little bit. First round of paint, not a finished coat of paint. So there's still some time. All right. So if you happen to walk down the hallway and you notice the paint divide is not perfectly straight, it's because, again, it's not on the finished coat quite yet. And then all of our mechanical stuff, not that Ms. Harding goes out there for too. So yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Meticulous is the word I was looking for. So outstanding.
Oh, man.
A lot of our mechanical work is also buttoning up with our HVAC, all those different pieces. Looking ahead in the project, as you can imagine, there is not much left on this timeline. A lot of this is that closeout work. Paint finish and trim is happening as we speak. Door access controls is out there today, should be wrapped up in the next couple of days. By the way, when you hear me say door access controls, I'm referring to the key fobbing system to be able to fob through those digital locking systems in those doors. Fire systems going to be wrapping up as well. Paving, we're looking to actually pave that facility over spring break. Timing wise, it worked out well to try to have as least traffic as possible throughout that area. So that's when we'll be putting the pavement down. Also playground and fencing area. This has been the stressful portion for me, has been trying to coordinate, making sure the playground and everything gets buttoned up. Playground should be starting hopefully next week. Fencing and all those kinds of things. The preliminary posts have been set. So at least if you're out there on site, you can see now the physical border of where the pre-K playground is going to be and divide between the core playground structures. And also the fencing up along the roads. And then flooring is the last thing to go in on the project. So when flooring is going in, there'll be a lot of smiling faces because that is the final piece to that puzzle. So again, I already talked a little bit about the playground area. For me, if nothing else, getting to see it, we've talked a lot about this on paper and talked a lot about what we think it's going to chew up in terms of real estate for the core playground area. It's a different thing now to go out and see it in person. To be frank with you, it all fits and landed exactly where we wanted it to land. So by the grace of God and a whole lot of math, we made it work and made it fit in that space. I do think it's a good balance between the core playground area and also meeting the needs for our pre-K students as well. That is going to be a sizable playground for our pre-K facility. So definitely going to be a worthwhile structure. Timeline wise, as we close this project out, we are looking to receive CO or certificate of occupancy, hopefully the week of April 15th. So that is not too long after we come back from spring break. We are buttoning this thing up. What we're proposing is on April 23rd and 24th, our core furniture delivery will happen during that time. When you hear me say that, we're going to be moving a lot of our equipment and pieces from the existing Forbes Pre-K up to this facility. But a lot of the new furniture and items that we put on order are set to be delivered on those dates. April 25th and 26th, we are looking to have no pre-K students in session on those 2 dates. That would be our official move-in dates. So that would be when we are doing the final push to move all of our operations up to the new facility, and also tentatively setting an open house for April 26th. That would be on a Friday. Potentially looking at a ribbon cutting ceremony and then a general public open house to see the facility, some of those pieces as well. And then finally, your go live date is April 29th, first day of pre-K for TES students in the new building. So it's an exciting time. It's a lot of work, a lot of organizing, but it's going to be a lot of fun when we get that building open and when they get a chance to see it. If you haven't been out there in a while, now the drywall's up and some of those pieces, it is an impressive facility. Very well laid out, very concise, huge amount of space, well thought out, tons of storage. So it's a very nice facility for our pre-K staff and students.
So I just question, the paint will be right?
The paint will be right, yes, sir. Straight lines, I promise. I promise, Kathy.
Also, just real quickly, I assume nothing's changed in terms of our relationship with the builder. Everything is with Champion Construction's going
well. I can't say enough good things about Derek Champion. He's really that attentive to detail. He answers the phone anytime I call him, and within a day, he's on top of whatever problem I've thrown at him. So we've had a great relationship with Champion Construction. He's done a really wonderful job for us.
All right. Any other questions, Dr. Swanson? We thank you, sir. Mr. Green, you said there was no other new business. How about any other old business? All right. And for informational purposes, I presented to the board on the February Head Start Policy Council minutes, the February preschool monthly report, the pre-K financial report, the monthly financial report, the month-to-date credit card report. There's an optional teacher work day on March the 29th. I believe that's Good Friday. And then spring break is April 1st through the 5th. And we have Special Olympics on May 2nd. There's NCSBA offered optional board training. They have the NCSBA legislative short session preview webinar, which March the 20th through the 24th. They have the 2024 spring lead training session. That's April the 29th. And then we have a summer leadership conference. Sorry, that was a little hard to read there for me. Summer leadership conference on June the 10th through the 14th. Board training, the NCSBA, at the NCSBA, July the 15th and 16th, and then the NCSBA video training library. I do not have anything, I don't believe, for public input. So with that being said, I would be looking for a motion to move into closed session for purposes of discussing personnel. And we have no attorney-client privilege because we have no attorney tonight. So
moved. A second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Else.